everyone. It is Cyndie Shelton, ready to do Titus 2 Talks number 5. I'm going to give it a few minutes here for people to join. I'm sure hoping the quality is going to be better today. The quality on the last 2 Facebook Lives were not very good at all, so I'm going to wait here just for a few minutes. I came on a little bit early today, trying to get ready for, I've got a training at noon. Hey Sheila, good to see you. Getting ready to start the Titus 2 Talks here. This is a Bible study for ladies. We've been going through a book by Debi Pearl. The light's not really good, I realize. Called Created to Be His Helpmeet. It's been very good so far. Some of this stuff is kind of hard to hear because, we want everything, at least I do, maybe y'all don't, want everything to kind of go my own way, and, I like calling this shots, and but we've been learning about what it means to be a helpmeet to our husbands, and most specifically, we'll be talking about Titus 2 here in a couple weeks, as we'll be getting to that, but this is kind of a preface for that. So glad to see you here. Today we're going to be talking about how Thanksgiving produces joy. Hey Craig, good to see you on here. This is a ladies' Bible study. This is not a business live, so I just want to encourage you ladies to stay on. And guys, this may not be something you're going to be overly interested in. I'm going to give it just another minute here or so, and let people join. I hope the quality is better. Can you hear me? Sheila, are you still on? Can you hear me okay without it being garbled? And it's been pixelated lately and kind of garbled, so I want to make sure the quality is decent before we get started here. Oh. And my cat's going to photobomb. He always does this. This is for ladies, okay? All right, so we're going to get started here in just a minute. All right, so as I mentioned, we're reading the book, Created to Be His Helpmeet by Debi Pearl. This book is being read with permission by the author and No Greater Joy Ministries. Today we're going to be talking about how Thanksgiving produces joy. And this is kind of funny. This is a funny chapter. I think you'll enjoy it. I know I definitely enjoy it. I need to answer this message. Give me just a second. Sorry, guys. This is important. Okay, so, hey, Jacqueline, good to see you. All right, we're just getting ready to start reading Created to Be His Helpmeet by Debi Pearl, read with permission. So, today we're talking about Thanksgiving produces joy. Live with thanksgiving, forgiveness, and joy. Enjoy all your moments as if they were your last. And we just, there was a funeral for a young man that is one of our adopted sons from a prison ministry my husband and I had, who passed away this past week. And his funeral was last night. And it's really made me just more aware than ever how precious, he was only 25 years old, how precious every single moment of life is. But today we're talking about my jolly playmate. This is Debi talking. She said, you have control over whether or not you and your husband will be heirs together of the grace of life or partners together in the tension and stress of life. It's a choice. You have much more control than you know. She says, as a general rule, my husband just doesn't take the trash out. I could be annoyed, or I could learn to enjoy taking the trash out. I'm smart. I've learned to really enjoy taking trash out. One day recently, my husband saw me struggling out the door with a huge sack of trash in one hand and several empty boxes in the other. Since he was headed in that direction, he volunteered to carry the heavy sack. He walked about 10 feet ahead of me, holding the sack out from his body with one hand. I knew he was just showing me how strong he was. I was as amused as usual with his display of manhood. After nearly 35 years of having me appreciate his muscles, you would think he would tire of showing them off. But he knows I have never tired of watching him perform. When he got near the large trash trailer, he was really getting into his macho thing. With great fanfare, he flung it, I would say tossed, but it was like a sideways catapult, the large trash bag as if it were a cement block instead of a thin plastic bag, too loaded down for its own strength. If you're just joining, I am reading the book, Created to Be His Helpmeet, for our Titus 2 Bible study, just to give some of the guys that joined a heads up. Of course, the string broke on the trash bag, and excuse me here, real quick, the name of today's chapter is Thanksgiving Produces Joy. And so this is Debbie talking about how you can be heirs together in the grace of life or heirs together in the stresses of life, and how you can choose, how you can control that. She said, of course, the string broke, allowing the bag to hit the side of the trailer, bursting open and dumping trash all over the ground. I could tell he was a little embarrassed as I rushed over to clean up his mess, but he continued on his merry way. I remember a time when all of this would have irritated me to the point of bitterness. I would have made sure that he felt my irritation, and our relationship would have been strained, all for a bag of trash. Such a stupid waste of our lives. But now, as I watch him humbly slink off, I had to grin. I think I've finally come to understand the male psyche, at least this male's. I know that the dumped trash bag was hard on the old boy. It's funny that men think women are so difficult to understand, but can you imagine a woman flinging a heavy garbage sack to prove how strong she is, and then having spilled it, leaving it for someone else to clean up? Having come to this lofty understanding of the male ego, I knew Big Papa would look for any chance to take out the trash from now on, and always do it right. His chance came about 2 weeks later when I was heading out the back door with another heavy sack. I graciously showed my thanks as he offered to take the big bag out. Just as he stepped out the door, I raced to the laundry room window. Quickly raising the window about 3 inches, I waited for him to come around to the trash trailer, which is directly in front of the laundry room window. This time he carefully and gently pitched the heavy sack, and I was ready. Just as the sack left his hand, I let out a blood-curdling scream. You would think he would get used to my tricks after all these years, but I got him again. I wish you could have seen his reaction. His t-shirt shook as if a strong wind had hit it, as every inch of his body quivered with shock. Of course, my own body was in spasms of wild laughter. It took him a second or two to realize that the sack had landed safely, and that the scream was in no way related to the trash bag he had just thrown. I had so rattled his nerves that with my war whoop that it seemed to take him a second to realize that I had done it again. Oh, this was a grand moment until he turned to meet my eye to laughing eyes, and I knew I would have to pay for my rowdy entertainment. His addled brain came quickly back to the present, and he took off running back to the house at a speed of the likes of which I thought he had long since become incapable. I knew there was no sense in trying to hide, because he would find me sooner or later. So I used my innocent lady pose. I sweetly stepped in front of the sink and began to wash dishes, suppressing my laughter with great difficulty. He sounded like a Big Mac truck coming through the door, but I just kept my back turned to continue to wash the dishes as if nothing had happened. My demure stance did not stop him. He grabbed me by the arm and started pulling me. Well, you can imagine the rest of this story. I'm going to skip down, since there are guys on this too. I'm going to skip down the next part, but I think you can imagine she's talking about how how fun it is to be a woman and how you can take the situations that would typically cause aggravation and make them fun. And that's the next part of her chapter, make love fun. Mike is my playmate. Mike is her husband. He needs someone to play with every day. I am his helpmeet. That is, I am his helper, suited to his needs. I meet his need for conversation, for companionship, and a playmate. Anytime we take a walk, we end up racing each other. When we walk up hills, I grab his belt and he pulls just for fun. Laughter always makes life easier to climb. Most mornings we greet the day with what we call wallowing, which is just rolling around, giggling, snuggling, smooching, and hugging in a wrestling match, which on an occasion ends in a real wrestling match, or a king of the bed game where I try to dump him off. If he gets tickled enough, he loses his strength, and I can sometimes get the best of him. I am his playmate. He thinks I am perfectly wonderful, not because I'm a beautiful woman. Those days were passed more years ago than I care to remember. Our delight in each other did not happen because he is the perfect man, or because he loves me like Christ loves the church, or because he's sensitive to all my needs. It didn't happen because he takes the trash out or cleans up after himself, or has always made a good living, providing me with all the things most women take for granted. It didn't happen because he is a strong spiritual leader and always does the right thing. It happened and continues to happen because of the choices I make every day. I never allow a chip on my shoulder, no matter how offended I might get and how offended I may have a right to be. And I do have reasons to be offended regularly. And we could all say that about our spouses. We're just human and flawed and without sin. And I can be, I just right now am dealing with a circumstance where I was being catty with someone and, kind of trying to push buttons and, and I had to make that right with God. I can't, we all have things that we annoy our spouses with, and we can choose to carry a chip on our shoulder and become bitter, or we can choose to realize that we married someone who's not perfect, who is flawed, just like we are flawed, and just having goodwill and a merry heart towards them, because that's going to affect you, not just them. It's going to affect you. It's going to affect your attitude about everything. When early in our marriage, she says, we made a commitment independently to please and forgive the other, no matter how hurtful the actions or words that were spoken. Somewhere over the years, having goodwill and a merry heart toward each other has become as natural as breathing. We have learned that all of life is fun and needs to be shared with our best friend, our playmate, and our lover. This, then, is the rule of life for wives. Live with thanksgiving. Live with forgiveness and live with joy. Enjoy all of your moments as if they were your last. Someday and soon enough, they will be. The marvel of my story is that it has been playing out for close to 35 years. No one would ever guess that the two old folks sitting in the corner table in the restaurant, getting their senior citizens discounts, would still be having so much fun. Yet, we continue to enjoy each other, playing, laughing, loving, and sharing. We have been heirs together of the grace of life, not partners together in stress and bitterness. Our relationship has become a living testimony of Christ in the church. My husband has been my head and I have been the body. He likes to remind me that I am the body. At my age, this is not only funny to me, but should give you a chuckle too. This is exactly what God meant marriage to be between a man and his wife. It is the great mystery spoken of in Scripture. Webster's dictionary tells us that a mystery is something that is fitted to inspire a sense of awe and enigma. For two earthly beings here in this cursed world, to have a joyful relationship throughout marriage is truly awe-inspiring. And I have to stop here and say that is what I have with my husband. We laugh together, we play together, we tease each other, and we couldn't used to do that because all the little things that we thought were so important were ways that we could easily become bitter against each other. And we were miserable until God worked in each of our hearts, and we chose to start being thankful and joyful and forgiving each other of anything. And when you forgive each other of anything, and honestly, most of the time, it's not even, yes, there are big things, but a lot of times it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. She says, because I have known such love and closeness with a man, it subsequently makes my understanding of God and my appreciation for him much deeper. A relationship based on law, rules, willful humility, and formality is death. I have learned to approach God just as I approach my husband, with love, joy, and delight. She said, now I know what some of you are thinking. You think it's too late for you. You are struggling on your second or third marriage, maybe to an unbelieving porn addict, or you are suffering through emotional scars from your youth. I want you to know something wondrous about Jesus. With him, it doesn't matter where you have been or who you have been with, because his love and forgiveness can reach down and make you whole. He is willing to love you and make you his bride just as you are. And he asks you to be a bride to your husband just as he is. When a weak sister fulfills her divine purpose of being a true helpmeet, it brings great glory and joy to God. Now, before you say, well, what about him? I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. This book is for women. We're talking about what our roles are and what God's plan for us is as wives. And then I'll pray for your husband. Allow God to work on your husband. So I'm going to read. Remember, I told you this book is filled with letters of people writing into Debi with their different situations, and then Debi's answer. So, dear Debi, I wanted to send my testimony because you have greatly encouraged me. I send it with my husband's approval. As a young child, I was messed with by family members and non-family members alike. I don't ever remember feeling pure. At age 4, my parents divorced and my mother had custody of us. I think my mom just gave up when they divorced. She didn't take care of us. Yes, we were left to ourselves for the most part. We were dirty and unkempt. Because these things took root in my person, I never really knew what it was to be loved. God certainly couldn't love me because I was so dirty, inside and out. I didn't just think that in my head. It was the way I lived. After I was married, I experienced deep personal pain in my marriage relationship, my husband's adultery. It was awful. I reacted terribly toward him. I defied him. I used it to get my own way, and I tortured him with it. You name it, I did it. The only thing I didn't do was leave him. We went through much hurt, anger, and bitterness. I had great difficulty trusting anyone or anything, even God. I asked God if he would please show me one way that he loved me. I felt bad for even asking in light of the fact that he had sent his only begotten son to die for me. But I did ask, and God answered me. That night, I went out of the living room to pray, and God opened up a small part of what felt like heaven to me. He reminded me that he loved me when I was that dirty, ill-mannered, messed with little girl. Here is how he did it. There was a lady in our neighborhood who was a Christian. When I was 5 years old, I was wandering by her house one day with a dirty cookie in my hand, and I offered it to her. She accepted it and took me on her lap and told me all about Jesus, creation, and how Jesus would come for us one day. It was God's lap that I sat on that day. It just took me years and years to know it. Because God loved a dirty little girl all the while I was going through school. I never believed in evolution. I had a basic knowledge of Jesus Christ, sin, hell, and heaven. God had laid a foundation in my life when I was a rejected, lonely child that would one day lead to my salvation through faith in Jesus Christ and his finished work on Calvary. That lady also took me to church with her for the next 5 years. She was a true vessel of God's love. There came a time during all our marriage troubles that I knew I was stagnating. I got on my knees and I began to pray, asking God to make me grateful. That Sunday at our church, the ladies from the roll-off homes were there. Roll-off homes take in troubled, drug addicted, or prostitutes who come there for help. God began to remind me where he had brought me from and what he had saved me out of. About the time God was doing this, our pastor asked the ladies of our church who would to come and stand with the roll-off ladies, because really, but for the grace of God, we would all have been standing where those ladies were. I went and I stood with them, and we all began to sing At the Cross. I began to weep, thinking about the miry pit that God had rescued me out of. The roll-off ladies put their hands on me to comfort me. Me, who should have been there comforting them. I silently thanked God for making me grateful, and I thanked him for doing it so gently. Being grateful and thankful is the key to having spiritual victory. It was at this point that the battle in my heart turned. There came a time when God dealt with me about my bitterness towards him. I had carried bitterness towards him for not protecting me while a child, when I thought he should have. He showed me that he hadn't shielded Jesus either. It was a battle to lay it down and trust that God would do the necessary things with it. I learned a good lesson about bitterness. It drives everyone away. I was now willing to let God have it. The next few weeks, I noticed that I had freedom to go to God with everything. Who would believe that now I want to be married to my husband, that I like being around him and spending time with him? I enjoy talking to him and enjoy the fact that he balances me out so well. Who would believe I'm looking forward to having more children with him, Lord willing? Some people would say that I'm weak and foolish or extremely codependent. What people think about me, though, is nothing compared to what God thinks. I know that God has brought me out on the other side. I don't know what the future will bring, but as the women of old, I am trusting in God. He is up close and personal to me now. I am learning to rest in him. I love him. He has not done anything in my life as I thought he would, but he's done exceedingly above all I could think or ask. Sarah. And then Debbie goes on to say, this message to you is simple. From this day forth, starting right now, today, be the woman who honors, obeys, and loves Jesus by honoring your husband. Thanksgiving produces joy. We're wrapping up this chapter. We've been reading about Thanksgiving produces joy from the book Created to Be His Helpmeet by Debi Pearl. Open your mouth and begin to thank God for his grace towards you. Thank him for every good thing that he has brought into your life. Thank him, and thank him again. Joy is the result of a thankful heart. A thankful heart is the result of the person who decides to give thanks. So thank God every day for as many things as you can think of. Let Thanksgiving become a natural part of your life. She says the word thanksgiving, this is get time to consider and get serious with God. The word thanksgiving is found in God's word 30 times. Thanksgiving is often coupled with joy, praise, melody, and sacrifice. God values thanksgiving and sees it as an act of sacrifice towards him. Why is it an act of sacrifice? Because is it always easy to feel thankful? Is it always easy to allow God to use those hard and hurtful things in your life to produce joy, to make you more like his son? That's his ultimate goal, is for your life to bring glory to him and to to refine you to make you more like his son, Jesus Christ. Ask God to teach you to be thankful. Make a written list of ways that you can start showing thankfulness. Then start living your list. Don't just make the list and tuck it in your Bible or put it in your purse and never look at it again. Start living your list. Find ways that you can start praising the people in your life, your husband, your children. When is the last time you said thank you to any of them? When's the last time you said thank you to anyone or showed appreciation to them? We may think it, but if we don't express it, they're never going to know it. You need to be speaking joy. You need to be speaking thanksgiving. If it's not already in your heart, then it needs to be, excuse me, needs to be by an effort of sacrifice that you show thanksgiving. Start walking on the water of thankfulness. God will give you the wherewithal as you're willing to walk in thankfulness and joy. All right, so that is the end of the chapter, Thanksgiving Produces Joy. On Thursday at 11 a.m., we'll be talking about the gift of wisdom. And again, I'm reading from the book, Created to Be His Helpmeet, by Debi Pearl. The book is being read with permission by the author, and you can order it from No Greater Joy Ministries. On Thursday, we'll be talking about the gift of wisdom. And I would love to talk to any of you. Some of you have contacted me after these meetings and have asked questions or wanted to pray or whatever. I am available for you. Just message me here on Facebook. I love you in the Lord. God bless you, and I will see you Thursday. Bye-bye now.